Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about the Netflix movie Glass Onion. So it is a movie that is currently on Netflix by Ryan Johnson, and we are going to be going into spoiler territory for this movie. Potentially spoilers for the movie that preceded this, Knives Out, even though they're not really related outside of the main character. But just in case, you have been warned. If you haven't seen it, you can go check it out on Netflix now, and then come back and see what we have to say about it. But let's go ahead and just jump right in. So, Glass Onion, it actually was in theaters. It came out in theaters for a little bit, like for a weekend or something. And then I had some friends that wanted to see it in theaters that didn't get to see it because it was like in theaters for like a weekend and then it was gone. Um, I didn't mind because I was waiting for it to get on Netflix. I just wanted it to get on Netflix as soon as possible. So it's all good. Um, I went into the movie expecting to like it, if I'm being honest, because I love Knives Out so much. Um, and I knew it was going to be another Who Done It mystery stuff, and like I think we're both kind of into like mystery stories, and even knowing how Knives Out played out, I was not expecting all the twists and turns that this movie had to offer. I will say, I'm going to come out and say this right now that when I walked away from this movie, I still think that Knives Out is a better product overall. But because I also think that Knives Out leaves you with a more satisfying ending than this one does. Like Knives Out, like when you see that last shot of the movie, it's an exclamation point, and it's a mic drop that cuts to black. It's perfect, and I don't think that this movie has that same energy. The movie when it ends, it feels kind of like a an even plane rather than like a hype excitement. But I so the energy is different for this film, but I still do think that it is an enjoyable film overall with a lot of twists and turns, which is why we also say if you haven't seen it, we don't want to spoil like those twists and turns for you. So it is worth watching to experience that at least once when you first see it, because there's a lot happening in this movie that you won't expect in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't have a lot of expectation for it because a lot of the times,
Sequels suck.
sequels, yeah, sequels suck. And this guy also did one of the worst Star Wars films. So. I mean, but Knives Out was his original content, so I didn't
Mhm.
think it was gonna be bad, but I didn't think it was gonna be as good as the original, and I think that, like you said, that falls true. It's definitely not as good as Knives Out, but it was still pretty good. I do, like, to a degree, feel like Knives Out had a little bit more heart in it, in the
Yeah.
sense of, like, well, you do have one likable character that isn't Daniel Craig, right? And so you
Right.
have someone that you're rooting for, and I think that's something that you kind of don't have in this movie.
You didn't
And
find yourself rooting for the main character. I forget her name, but you didn't find yourself rooting for her.
but then you don't really learn about who she is until later. But
Right.
at the very
Okay.
beginning, you're already kind of like getting to know who all these characters really are. But in this
Hmm.
movie, you don't know who any of these characters are. And so you don't really love or hate anyone. You just know that, like, essentially everyone kind of sucks. But
Yeah.
in Knives Out, there's a good amount of time at the beginning where everyone's character is just established. And that's something that I think is kind of missing from Glass Onion.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, like, one of the things that stood out to me at the beginning was the questions that were being asked in Knives Out at the beginning for the interview questions. And
Hmm.
Glass Onion doesn't really start that way. It starts out with, like,
The mystery box puzzle, right?
yeah, but then it's not enough of, like, there's no, like, what's going on thing yet because
Hmm.
we don't really have a mystery until a little ways into the film. And
Oh,
so,
I see. Because like with Knives Out, it actually does start with the murder. Because I think the
yeah,
person comes in and sees the dead guy, and then yeah, they have the interviews and
hmm,
stuff, right? And
yeah,
then we slowly learn what happened over time.
yeah.
Okay.
But for Glass Onion, there's no mystery yet. Like, everyone just kind of gets invited to this party, and we don't really know like why or how Daniel Craig got there, and we kind of find out later, and like there's been no murder yet, and I think the murder doesn't really happen for a while into the movie, and it's not who
They
you think it'll be.
Yes, yes.
So I think it kind of takes a while to kick off.
It's a slow burn. It's more of a
Yeah,
slow burn.
yeah, but I like the twists and turns. I thought it was interesting. I feel like maybe another reason why I am not as impressed with Glass Onion as I was with Knives Out is because we're not allowed, or we're not let to see all the information um, as it goes. We find out information as we watch it, and so without that information, we as viewers would never be able to figure out what was going on. And I think that's different with Knives Out, is because we kind of get to see everything, and we're left clues so that when you watch it again, you're like, oh. And you do kind of get that from Glass Onion, but it's a different oh, because um, you see the same scenes again, not from different perspectives, but to give you more information so that you can see the mystery be revealed to you.
Right. And I think that with Knives Out, like there I feel like there was some information like when we first meet Anna de Armas's character, we don't know what happened the night before, but then we see the entire night play out. And I think that Glass Onion holds those cards a little close to the chest for a while because we start off and we hear like the whole thing, the knock at the door where Daniel Craig hears that he has a box, and so we assume that he's gotten the same box as everybody else and that he had to like solve it and stuff, and that's why he has the invitation. And we do see the scene of I think Janelle Monáe's character breaking the box, but that happens in a separate thing. Um, and we don't find out until later that they're actually working together. So that part of the mystery, it's always challenging when you're like your main characters also know more than you, because I think that that's probably the biggest difference that I would say between Knives Out and this one is that we find out what happened with Ana de Armas pretty early in Knives Out, and she's our main character. And Benoit Blanc, he doesn't know what happened, but we actually know what happened, so we have more information than he does. And then Knives Out plays with the whole thing of she's trying not to get caught, and that's what makes it interesting, is because we're like rooting for her because we know that it was an accident, and then we find out more. But it allows us to connect with her because we feel her plight like right away. And with Knives Out, when we meet Janelle Monáe's character, we think that she's just another one of these other characters. So we don't immediately attach to her. So we're thinking that the main character is Detective Blanc. But then we find out that Detective Blanc and Janelle Monáe, and I think we don't find it out until like I want to say like
Like the
40
middle.
minutes or
Yeah.
middle, yeah, into the movie. So it takes a while for us to get there, and then they flash back and we find out that the two of them have been working together the entire time. And it definitely is um a tool, but I don't know that it's as effective because it always feels a little cheap when the audience has information hidden from them from the main characters. Like
Mm-hmm.
if it feels fine if information if the villains hide information from us because the whole point is finding out what the villains have done. But when
Mm-hmm.
you find out that your two main characters have actually hid this whole thing that they're working together the entire time, it it just feels a little weird because you're like you feel like you should have known, you should have been given that information.
Mm-hmm.
um but that's fine. They withhold it, and then we get to see that they're working together. We find out that she is a twin. There is a murder that's happened, but it was before the movie even started. So now it's like, and it's a murder we haven't even seen happen yet. And then at some point in the movie, they start like playing around with who could have done it. They show everybody in that mold of like doing it and whatnot. Um, but we find out that this character is a twin and that she is helping him so that they can try to figure out who did this and what happened. But up until that point, the movie feels like it's going to be about Edward Norton getting murdered
Mm-hmm.
for real in his murder mystery party, and then having to solve it. And like that first bit of subversion was something that I enjoyed. Like I liked it when he's like, "I'm going to set up this game," and then Benoit just completely destroyed the game because in the back of my mind, I know that Benoit is good, but kind of like what we were talking about the Man from Uncle earlier. I know it feels like he's good, but then he's not good, like based off of Knives Out, because there were so many things he should have been able to figure out that he didn't, and he even ended that movie saying that he was a bad detective or whatever, or I think Anna de Armas said he was a bad detective. So when I see him, I'm thinking he's okay, he's good, but he's not good. But seeing him solve that mystery like right away, I was like, oh no, he's good.
That's funny.
He's
Yeah.
real good. So I like that. I like that element a lot. But then it looks, and he even then takes Edward Norton aside and says, "You set yourself in a position where you can be killed by people who want to kill you." And so you think that's going to be the story, and then yeah, that's when it gets pulled out of your rug when you see the girl get shot.
Yeah, and that's like also what I was gonna say is that he actually makes it a point to say that, like, to Edward Norton's character, that he's basically put himself in a threatening situation, and so it leads us to think that Edward Norton's gonna be murdered, and that's gonna be the mystery that he ends up having to solve, and he's already kind of working on it because he's already thought about it. And
Right.
to be honest, I think that would have been a more compelling story than if they had done what they actually did, which was that whole thing being an act. So I think like the fact that Benoit was like essentially acting the whole time at the beginning of the movie, and not just him, but the other character, where they're
I
like
think her name is Helen.
yeah, and they're like pretending to not know each other,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
like and then like I kind of watched the beginning over again, and or no, never mind, I didn't, but at like when they get onto the island, they pretend to not know each other, and then like there's this part where he was like, wait, so do we get our luggage? And then she's like, yeah, rich people. And then they introduce each other to themselves, but no one else is around.
Oh really? I
Yeah.
need to go back and see that again. I didn't know. I didn't want to go back and rewatch it either.
I actually
Uh,
noticed that at the beginning, because I was like, but they were like introduced, like, why would, if they were like working together, why would they introduce themselves to each other?
So you remembered that they introduced each other
Yeah.
to each other, but you were saying in your memory there was no one else around when they introduced themselves to each other.
Yeah, and I remembered it because they kind of have like the flashback of where he's like tying his shoelace
His
or
shoes.
something, and
Yeah.
they're like having a discussion that no one else is supposed to hear. It's because no one else is supposed to be around, and when they had that introduction at the beginning, no one else was around, so everyone had already like left. So
That's interesting.
yeah, so like there's parts like that where I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. And so I do feel like I do want to watch this movie again because I do want to catch things. I know my boyfriend, he watched part of it before me, and then he repeated it and watched it again with me, and he was saying like, oh, things are like standing out and stuff. So I think it's gonna be similar to our experience with Knives Out, where it's gonna be fun to watch it a second time. And I don't know if it'll be as good because I know with like Knives Out, we felt like we were watching a whole different movie when we watched it the second time. So yeah, I don't know, but there's definitely more flaws in this film. I think it's not as tight as Knives Out.
Yeah, and I want to say that also is because like the crime itself is meant to be stupid. Like these characters are meant to be dumb. Like Edward Norton's character is meant to not be an intelligent guy because he buys all these things that he doesn't really need, and he just doesn't know what to do with things. He keeps evidence that could incriminate him just because he doesn't want to destroy it until he absolutely has to. So he's like a dumb criminal. And I think that's why even Benoit Blanc at the end, he's just like, it's so dumb. It's just dumb. When he talks about how like Dave Batista gets poisoned, and he's like, oh, so someone poisoned him. He's just like, not even what you think. It's just like he put pineapple in his drink. It's just dumb. It's so dumb, and I just love it. So I think that's the point. It's just that it's like it's meant to be stupid crimes, Um, and so that's why it doesn't feel as strong. But at the same time, it doesn't feel as strong.
Mm-hmm.
So because it is dumb. And I think one of my biggest issues is that like the highs, right? Like when you watch, and maybe, and that's probably his intent, but when you watch mystery films or mystery shows, the highs come from the discovery and the reveal, and then the payoff of having the person that did the bad thing get their comeuppance. There's like layers because it's the lead up to the reveal, there's the actual reveal, and then there's the action that happens after the reveal that results in the criminal getting what they deserve, because most of the time the criminal doesn't just stand there and get arrested after the reveal. In Knives Out, he tries to stab her, and you get the satisfaction of it being a fake knife, and then it ends with her having the house and drinking from the cup we saw in the movie at the beginning of the movie. That's great.
And she
This
throws up
one,
on him.
oh yeah, right. And she throws up on it. That was great. So like, there's so many moments in that just like pay off to like see this person get their comeuppance, but it's very muted for what happens to Edward Norton. Like, so the lead up, the reveal, and showing the napkin and how they came to get there and all this other stuff, like that's all well and fine. And then when he destroys it, it's like, oh, this is interesting. He just destroyed the evidence. Where is this gonna go now? Um, and then it just feels kind of weird when she's like, "Oh, I'm going to start breaking everything." And when she breaks everything, you know what's going to happen because they've spent the whole movie telling you how this stuff is being powered by something that's very flammable. So like when that was happening, I was like, she's going to set the house on fire. And she does. And so he does lose everything, and then but that still doesn't give the feeling of catharsis that I think they wanted you to feel in that moment. We're just like, yeah, burn it all down. Like that's what I wasn't feeling. I was just feeling like, okay, yeah, she lost, so she's burning his house down. That's all there was. And then at the end, when he's like, you still have to, like, it's still my word against yours. And then all of the friends are like, oh, I saw him burn the note. I saw him burn the note too. That doesn't feel that good because one, a lot of them have been kind of terrible people up to that point. Two, they already lied about this before. So now, if the movie continues, why would any type of like lawyer believe them? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're saying something different than you said on the stand like a year or two ago when we had you here. So your word is incredible, and you guys all agreed then too. So like, even if you just think about it for like a little bit longer, it doesn't even feel good after that. So when you see her sitting and talking to Benoit, and he's like, "Did you get him or whatever?" and she's like, "Yeah," or whatever it is she says, it doesn't feel like a moment of triumph. It feels very muted. Like, yeah, she won, and it's implied that she will continue to win, and Edward Norton's going to get what he deserves. But it just doesn't feel as powerful as the original movie. Is I guess what I'm saying. And even if I take the original movie out from a point of comparison, it just doesn't feel as powerful. Period.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed when like the napkin got burned. I think it would have been more satisfying if the napkin survived the fire. Edward Norton lost everything, and so did everyone else.
Yeah,
Because I think
because they
that's what
all.
we got
Mm-hmm.
from Knives Out is everybody lost, and there was only
Right.
one triumph.
And it was the one triumph we wanted to have happen.
Yeah, and I don't think we even wanted it that badly, to be
Oh,
honest.
that's true. We just want her to get away with it.
Yeah, I mean like I mean it's I feel like we weren't rooting for her because we didn't know who she was,
Are you talking
and
about for Glass Onion?
yeah,
Oh, sorry, I was thinking about Knives Out again.
oh
But yes,
no,
For
yeah,
Glass Onion.
for Glass Onion, I feel like we weren't really rooting for her because we didn't know who she was, and I think maybe if we knew who she was at the beginning, or if there was like a hint. I mean, I don't even know how I would change it, but I think there's a disconnect because everybody's made to be unlikable, even her, because she's
Right.
playing the role of someone who is part of a group who is unlikable.
Right.
So it's hard for me to say. Like, I don't think at any point I was really rooting for her until like maybe later on. But I think by that time it was probably too late,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I was lied to. because of Daniel Craig's character, like playing this role, and it was actually like a setup. It wasn't solving
Yeah.
a mystery. It was trying to, like, they kind of made it that way where they were like, oh, we have to figure out who the killer was. It could have been any of them, but I mean, I think once you find out that her sister was murdered, um, you kind of know, you kind of already are so like detached and you don't like anyone that it
Hmm.
almost doesn't really matter like who done it. It's probably all of them because they
And it
all,
worked.
yeah, because they're all friends. So it's kind of like a, you kind of already know. So it's not like a mystery that needs to be solved, and it kind of becomes more of a. It starts with oh, like there's gonna be a murder, and like who's
Hmm.
gonna be the one that did it, and then it turns into a, oh, there's this other thing going on. It's actually a setup, and it's kind of obvious already who did it. So I don't know why I need to watch the rest of this movie. But it's still good. I mean, I still had a good time. I think I just feel a little bit more disconnected and like less invested than I was in Knives Out.
Yeah, I think that that's all fair. The the thing that one of the things that stood out to me as a question that I'd want to pay attention to on a second rewatch is that I didn't understand why if Edward Norton killed and he knows that he killed the sister, why would he send the box? That's what I didn't get. I wasn't
Well,
sure.
that I
Did
would
he?
get because he has to pretend like she's still alive.
Oh, right.
Otherwise, it'll be obvious that, like, if he knew
Yes.
that she was dead, then
Well, but then at the same time, everyone's surprised that she shows up.
so was he.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. Like, everyone would have still believed that he wouldn't have invited her because it sounded like from their history, no one was really talking to her anyway.
I think somebody said at the dock when they were before they were getting on the boat that she always gets an invitation, but what's surprising is that she actually came.
Oh, okay. See, and that's why I'd want to watch again. But I think I remember now that you mentioned that. I think I do remember hearing that. So then, it's interesting because then that means that the moment that she shows up, him being the host and him being the person that murdered her knows exactly who she is, and I think that's what they said. Like they said that someone's gonna know who you are, but it's weird that it's like the lead guy because then you're asking yourself, okay, why isn't he doing something about you earlier? Because he knows exactly what your game is, and
Mm-hmm.
anytime that you're sitting there and you're doing like the speeches where you're trying to make people feel uncomfortable, he knows who you are, so he knows this is a bunch of bull. So I don't know.
But
I remember when I ended the movie, it felt weird.
I would argue though that like because he poisoned her, maybe maybe he like never
Oh, he
confirmed,
thinks right.
like,
Okay.
oh, like he's surprised that she's still alive because he's like, I thought I killed you. I guess I didn't do the job. And
Right.
that's why he shoots her because he thought that he didn't
Oh,
finish the job.
so I was with you up until then because remember, I think when he shoots her, it comes after Batista had showed him the phone that said that the person died. So he's actually shooting the sister.
Uh,
He knows he's shooting the sister because that was the thing. Because I think you're right. I think up until that point, we're up here like figuring out this
I
movie as we're
know.
talking about it. But like,
That's why
but
it's
yeah,
still good.
yeah. But like yes, because that's what happened. He did not know if he actually killed her, and they were saying that they were keeping people from finding out that or reporting on the fact that she had died. So he didn't know that she had actually died. And then at the point when it gets the phone, so yes, he probably did think it was actually her that entire time until the point that Dave Batista shows him the phone and says, "Hey, she actually is dead," and blah 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 blah. And then that's when he kills Batista and stuff like that. But then that also means that he's actively choosing to kill the sister now.
Mm-hmm.
He's killing both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotta watch it again, and I do want to watch it again because I want to see what like now that I know what I know, I want to watch it again. So
And see if it holds up.
yeah, and like that's also another reason why I think that this movie isn't enjoyable, because it does make you want to go back and watch it, and it's the same concept as Knives Out, where like there are like hints being dropped and stuff like that, and then there's also the whole thing about like, well, who gave, like, did Dave Bautista actually grab the wrong glass, or did Edward Norton give it to him, and stuff like that. Right. So I kind of want to watch again to see if I could catch that. So there's stuff like that I like, reasons why I would want to watch it again, and just kind of see like the reactions, like when they first get on the island and Edward Norton being surprised. Is he like the right kind of surprised, or like confused?
Like an old crap surprise.
Like, is it like a ghost? Like, am I seeing a ghost, or something like that? So I do want to go back and watch it again for sure, and I'm hopeful that it holds together, and that it's gonna be similar to watching Knives Out again, where it's like a completely different film. But I honestly, I don't think it's as good as Knives Out, but it's still a fun movie.
For sure. Maybe when you watch it again, that introduction will make sense. Maybe they noticed that there was somebody off to the side that might be seeing them or something. Maybe that'll actually hold together too.
Maybe.
But yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you want to say about this before we get out of here?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. But that's what we thought about Glass Onion, a Knives Out story. Have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? Did you enjoy it more, less, or just about the same as the original Knives Out? Did you like the characters? Did you hate them? Did you think that the main character was good, or were you rooting for her? Were you not really rooting for her that much? What have you thought about it? Comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and we'll see you all next time.